Hello, my name's Artemis, and in this twisted capitalist fucking hellscape in which we find ourselves, we're all basically slaves to the rigours of currency and finance. And no, I actually haven't whipped that straight out of the communist Marxist manifesto, honest.
So many of us toil away in jobs simply to pay the bills, and it can be quite the collection of corporate crap to contend with.
So this week we're going to try and give you some tips to weathering that corporate storm and how to actually survive in such a corporate fucking world in which we find ourselves, and we'll be doing it in a way that obviously doesn't directly reference or represent any business or employer or company, corporation, organisation of any shape or form at all, adhering to whatever kind of social media policies anybody could ever find. Oh, legal disclaimers are fun.
Yeah, totally. Disclaimer, like, we don't represent any business or corporation or company or employer, past, present or future. We're just talking shit about the state of the world and abiding by all kinds of social media policies that may or may not be in effect here, okay?
Number 1, the job shouldn't take priority over your own health and welfare. Okay, first off, I have a very serious point to make, and it is about your own personal health and safety. And no, I don't mean wearing the right boots and filling out fucking risk assessments. It's all about your welfare.
So often we put ourselves under so much pressure to work as hard as we fucking can because we live in a society where our worth is defined by our productivity, and that can really fucking affect your health in very bad ways.
Of course, it's important to do what you need to do to pay those bills and keep surviving, but when it comes at the cost of your mental stability and your own personal health, maybe it's time to make a few positive changes to make things a bit better for you.
At the end of the day, some jobs are just jobs and just not worth sacrificing your health for, especially when you're on the bottom rung of a very tall ladder.
Number 2, if the higher-ups don't give a shit, why should you? So many companies these days have a sliding pay scale with obviously all the management and higher-up CEO kind of stuff on the top and all of the frontline grunts that actually typically keep the business moving towards the low end of it. And it's so very easy for all of those up the top to completely forget about all the quality of life day-to-day things that really affect the running of the business because they're so far removed from it.
Previous places that I have worked have demonstrated that the higher someone rises above everybody else, the further away they actually get from fucking reality. And they stop really caring about the effects that their decisions and the actual direction of their business is going to go because, I mean, it's not their problem anymore, is it? And, you know, they pay other people to deal with that shit.
You gotta think about it mathematically, okay? You've only gotta give the same percentage of fucks that correlates with your pay. We need an example, but somewhere I've never worked. Sports Direct, bunch of wankers that they are. Yeah, Sports Direct. Let's say that you work for Sports Direct and Mike Ashley, their fucking CEO, is a colossal cuntbag. 0-hour contracts and complete abuse of their staff, all sorts. If he doesn't give a fuck about anything and he gets paid that much, you need to give the same fraction of fucks that he does. Although, I suppose a fraction of 0 is still 0. You can't really do that, can you? Number 3, company values are always the same and they mean next to nothing. How many people watching have worked for a company that likes to drill home their little sense of corporate values? You know, those kind of buzzwords that make you feel like you're working as part of a family and that you have a sense of morality beyond how much money can we shake loose from the general public without them noticing.
Again, so many companies that I've worked for have used this really weird trait, using different bullshit words like caring, as if, you know, we actually know what we're supposed to care about. Is it the paycheck? Because it always was for me. Or maybe like the staff, they love what they do here, which honestly I always thought was sarcastic, like especially the way I was treated in that place. I'm glad I fucking left. But you pretty soon come to learn that all of these values are basically the same across every single company. They all just reword the same ones and they mean next to nothing.
Most of the time this won't really impact you on a day-to-day basis. It's just the sort of thing you've got to memorise and spit out when you need to. You know, they like to try and build that they have this nice tight-knit sense of community and they care for their staff, but they prefer to do it with these little buzzwords and slogans rather than, you know, with a decent work-life balance or making conditions favourable for staff staying or even paying a living wage. Number 4, companies are often only about their image and not their reality. Oh, now this one isn't going to be true for every corporation, but for certain corporations like, we need another example of a shit company. Sports Direct, fuck it, they're easy targets. They only really tend to care about their public image and perception rather than the actual reality of the situation.
It's often all about just putting on a brave face and smiling as if everything is all sunshine and rainbows in this workplace, and, you know, we're not struggling to get staff, and the staff that we do have aren't ending all of their shifts crying crying in the toilets having another breakdown. No. It seems like so many people in these higher up positions completely lose track of reality. One of the last places I used to work used to have these massive briefings for everybody, and everyone had to attend, and they'd order pizza, and it was all like, oh, we're one happy family, and they talk about all this budget stuff, the company's parts of it that's all over the fucking world that, you know, as people just working at this random place are just like, okay, that doesn't really affect me because it's in a whole other fucking continent. And then up steps Mr. Motherfucker who's, my job's amazing, I jet set all over the world and I meet people and celebrities and I have a fantastic life. And we're all kind of there like, yeah, we get paid minimum wage, I clean up vomit. But I'm glad you're having a good time, Mr. Six-Figure Salary. I don't understand exactly what the fuck they are in touch with, but reality, it fucking ain't.
Now, obviously, this doesn't say that you can't have direct change that influences the day-to-day working of things, and that things cannot change for the better, because they can, if you put that effort in a lot of places. But also, some companies would honestly rather you just shut the fuck up and stop drawing attention to the sorts of issues that they just bury their head in the sand over, and, you know, continue to do that until automation can make your job completely obsolete. Number 5, learn how to convincingly bullshit your way through corporate speak. The corporate world can be a very confusing one with its own little vocabulary that barely makes any sense to those of us who actually use the English language every single day, spewing out words like connectiveness and synergy and innovation and ownership, and hell, sometimes they just make shit up on the spot, like, you know, we strive to embiggen ourselves and our profits, although, to be fair, that is a perfectly cromulent word.
This is like learning a whole other language, but the kind of language that's only used by those kind of obnoxious assholes that you see on The Apprentice and you really would just avoid in everyday life. And you will find yourself in a couple of situations in your working life where you have to wheel these phrases out and try and pretend that you actually use them in everyday life. I mean, just think of it almost like a passcode. Like, if you slip enough of them into your conversation, then it will unlock a cheat code that gets them, you know, all the managers to just fuck off and leave you alone.
Practice using these in simple conversation, and more importantly, practice using them without that sense of sarcasm coming through, and it can serve you quite well in awkward conversations with those that you don't often see coming down from their ivory towers. It can easily make that little distinction between, yep, fuck that waste of space, we'll get someone else in, and, they towed a company line quite well, I guess we'll keep them around. Number 6, keep things in perspective. Is this a career or just a job to pay the bills? So here's a fun point that I'm sure everybody who actually has a stake in their business is gonna hate if you ever voice this opinion, but some jobs are just jobs. They're not career moves, they're not passionate things that you go to work and are just really happy to be there. They're a means to an end, a way to pay the fucking bills. Okay, and we're all eventually going to work 1 or 2 jobs that honestly you could just interchange with anything else as long as it pays the fucking bills.
And this is a hard point for a lot of places to accept. In fact, they will often brand you with an attitude problem if you say that you actually don't love their company, because it's binary to them. You either love it or you hate it. This isn't fucking Marmite, alright? Sometimes it's just a job, and sometimes approaching it like that is the best way to do it. I mean, especially if you're in a job that can bring a lot of stress. Being able to leave that stress at the door and actually just come in, do the work, get it done to a great standard, and then leave without it affecting the rest of your life, that's a fucking great thing. That should be everybody's goal.
Honestly, this is a goddamn superpower right here, okay? This is your tool to being a really productive and really comfortable worker wherever you find yourself. Like, if you can go in, get the job done, and leave, leaving all the stress in the building, not taking it home with you, not taking responsibility for too much, not living or dying based on what you do in that day, then you're gonna work better, you're gonna work happier, more comfortable, get more shit done. Because you know, you're not fucking suffering every goddamn day from just caring too much. Number 7, work should always be equal to pay. Another concept that's very hard for the higher-ups to get round their fucking heads is the concept of work equaling pay. Now, most places will pay you for your shift, the amount of time that you're in the building, and you'll have some duties to do, but they'll expect you to do more in the downtime, which makes literally 0 sense. You know, if you are paid for the amount of time that you are on the premises, then where the fuck is the incentive to put more work into that?
I've had meetings in old workplaces where I used to work, don't currently work, and I'm not affiliated with, legal disclaimer, and all of those meetings like to centre around the whole, you need to do more with your time here. You're getting your work done quick, but you need to do more work to fill in that time, and honestly, they got really fucking shitty when I said, if you want more work done, you need to pay me more. Because, honestly, when it's all time-based, what's the incentive to work fast or hard, really? If you only paid for the time you're in the fucking building, then just make that time last. And this is why it baffles me that workplaces don't at least experiment with task-orientated pay. I mean, do you know how much fucking work I'd get done if I was paid according to what I actually did? I'd get a lot done quickly. Like, I would more than happily spit out an entire day's fucking work in just a 2-hour rush and get the fuck home. And surely that's better for business, right?
Do not kill yourself working harder than you realistically should. Alright, companies do need to realise that the level of work needs to correlate directly with the level of pay. And they can't just expect to keep adding little duties here and there to get you to be more productive when they're not even paying you for that extra work, alright? And if they are trying to do that, maybe it's time to move somewhere else. Number 8, gold bricking is a survival skill. Gold bricking is a pretty old term, but I do very much like it, and it's essentially the act of making it look like you're doing more than you actually are. Now, I'm not just going to say that I condone laziness and just doing absolute fuck all, but a lot of workplaces you will find yourself in your life will have staff that are shit. That everybody knows are shit. They don't do nothing right, and everyone else has to sort of pick up the slack. Well, it's not really fair that you pick up the slack for that. So this is where you need to make your job look a lot harder than it is. You're really working super hard when really you're just getting done exactly what you're supposed to get done.
A lot of times companies will rely on, their workers' work ethics and, desire to get stuff done and put in a good performance to cover up the slack of those who have figured out how to just coast through the place. And that doesn't really seem very fair, does it? If you're all paid the same to do the same job, then you should all be doing the same amount of work. And at the end of the day, if they're more than happy to just leave the lazy ones and acknowledge that, oh, well, they're just shit, they never get anything done, then essentially they've set the bar for what that wage gets them in terms of labour. And working anything above that without a pay increase is just stupid, really? Isn't it? So why do it? Why? What's the incentive there?
Again, it's another really hard point to sort of fall on, but the problem is if you keep picking up that slack, then they expect you to. It becomes part of what you are supposed to be doing. And the other person just gets away with it. And then if you reach your limit and you can't keep working at that speed because, it's putting too much on you and you have to just go back to doing your own stuff, and suddenly it's all your fault when it's not getting done. Really, it should have been fucking Karen's job for the past 7 fucking years. Don't do it to yourself, just ain't worth it. Number 9, understand your worth. People always like to act superior and feel like those beneath them are going to serve them. That's just the way it fucking works. And they'll look down on a lot of different job roles and different places where they go because they feel like they're above them. And hell, companies even feel this sometimes as well, having this weird mantra of, oh well, if you don't like the job, go somewhere else and we'll just hire someone new, as if there's some infinite fucking source of employees.
The kind of service and infrastructure jobs that so many people like to whip out their superiority and smack people in the face because, they're above those kind of workers, also tend to be the most vital. And as much as they can say that, oh, well, it doesn't matter, just, get out of school with no qualifications, you start flipping burgers, they're also the same sort of people who will bitch and moan and throw a fucking world-class tantrum if their Big Mac takes more than 5 seconds, and then will cry even harder when they realise, oh, fuck, they actually get paid more at McDonald's than I do at my dead-end job. And it works in a lot of different ways as well. As much as customers and companies like to believe that you are easily replaceable and that if you don't like the job, you can just fuck off somewhere else and now hire someone new, they actually need to put the effort into being an attractive proposition for people. Otherwise, that reputation gets around and people just don't apply.
You do have to love the fucking trend of seeing all of these businesses over in America struggling to reopen because their staff have moved on somewhere better. When you keep saying to people that, hey, maybe don't grow up and flip burgers for a living, then they will fucking stop doing those jobs. When you say to people, well, this job's not getting any better, if you don't like it, just quit, they might just fucking quit. And it is great to see, especially when they try and blame it on welfare checks and government support. No, son. You were treating your staff like shit and underpaying them, and they've realised that. I hope you go into fucking ruination. And number 10, only take responsibility for what you are personally responsible for. And finally comes the point of responsibility and ownership, which honestly, if you're at the very lower rungs of the ladder, you shouldn't really be taking any of it. Like, you don't make the decisions, other people do, and they will happily make the kind of decisions that they want to make to improve their bottom line without really thinking about what that means to the daily operating of their business.
It can be really easy to feel a deep sense of responsibility for this place. I mean, you feel like it's sort of yours, you feel that pride, but you really shouldn't, because you don't own it, you're not in control of it, you don't make the decisions, someone else does, potentially hundreds of miles away, getting paid a shitload more than you. So don't take the flak for it. I mean, it's not down to you, is it? Let's say that you work in a supermarket and people are, oh, this was cheaper last week. Well, you don't control how much things cost, do you? Let's say that you haven't got enough staff due to, I don't know, sickness or something. Well, you're not in control of the wages budget or the scheduling, are you? And if you are, then, you know, maybe get on top of your shit. But if you're not, then is it really down to you to absorb all the complaints and have to be the one who's like trying to explain things? No, direct them to head office. It's the way to go. Take responsibility for your own self, because they'll more than happily throw you under the fucking bus knowing that they will never have to deal with all of the anger of their decisions.
Get comfortable directing people to the right methods, the right channels of registering their complaint, because, you know, what can you do at your level apart from just get stressed and upset? I mean, it's not passing the buck. No, you having to deal with it. It's having the buck passed to you. You didn't make these decisions. You don't have any control over what happens. So it's not down to you to have to suffer just because someone wants to vent their bad mood on you for something completely out of your control.
Okay, so there you have it. There's our little look at this capitalist hellscape in which we find ourselves. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you also acknowledged that obviously we don't represent any company or workplace, past, present, or future. We were just saying shit that was funny, and also that we, you know, do believe this is stuff that we've seen in the world. These are important points, I think, and more importantly, I think they are relatable as fuck to the vast majority of those who find themselves in similar positions. So I hope it was relatable. I hope you all understand that obviously it's not about any specific company or workplace or corporation. It's about the very nature of our fucking society, which makes me sound like a total wanker, but whatever. Hope you did enjoy it. Here's a random advert for merchandise that you might want to have a look at, because, you know, hell, if enough people keep buying the merchandise and supporting, then, you know, maybe one of us can break free of this capitalist fucking nightmare. Oh, please, please. Anyway, I'm not the only one who can beg. It's a dog trick, so we're going to send it back to the fucking dog. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. It was a cathartic video to make, obviously, and I think a lot of you will recognise a lot of these things from your working careers, but obviously do be careful with not representing companies, because legal disclaimer, we don't represent anyone. I'm going to hammer this point home, all right? We don't represent no one. Okay, no company, no business, no nothing. This is just something that we're saying, okay? Like, do you see this dog? Do you see this right here? This has not worked, all right? I'm a lazy motherfucker. So, actually, I say I haven't worked. I do have a sort of revenue income. Ta-da! Yes, maybe you might like to check out the Patreon if you did enjoy this. But, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope you found it funny, entertaining, and I hope these tips might actually serve you as you venture forth into the exciting world of selling your life away hour by hour to people that will just take advantage of it and abuse you. That was depressing. See you next week, I guess.